So today I'm going to show you real quick how I keep track of data and automate that process using Airtable and Ply. So let's just take this as an example. So here's an Airtable table within a base where I'm tracking certain interactions that I have with portfolio companies. So I work now for a venture capital firm, and we try to bring value to our portfolio companies. So we make introductions for them, we have strategy sessions with them, et cetera. And so what I want to do is keep track of all the activities we've had with portfolio companies. So I set up this very simple Airtable table within this base. So this is a list of all of our portfolio companies. And then I have this table that links to the portfolio table, and I can track what company I'm working with. I can track the owner of the activity, so I can track activities for other people. I have details, which is on purpose collapsed so you don't see the actual details of what we're doing. And then I have the category of the activity, the source, like if it's an introduction, like what's the source of the introduction? Is it network, personal network, LP, etc. And then the name is actually just a formula that summarizes the portfolio company name and the category. So we have a quick glance, like I can see what we did for each one of these companies. And this is just a way to think of this as a way to keep track of data, right? And the use case may be whatever use case you're thinking of, whatever data you're trying to keep track of. The question is how to automate and streamline the process of getting data into this Airtable table. So one way, and the easiest way, is probably setting up a form. So you set up a form that feeds data into this table with these fields. However, what if you're randomly on, sending emails and you want to quickly like track another intro that you made for a portfolio company? How do you do that? Well, for that I use Ply. And I'll show you real quick how I set up the full Ply automation from beginning to end so that you can set up automations as well. So Ply allows me to install features either on my command bar, like just anywhere in my browser, or specific apps. For this use case, I'm going to do it as a command bar feature so that I can access it from wherever I am on the web. And I'll just show you the way a command bar works. So let's say you're on any website, you hit Command-Shift-J, in my case, the way I set it up, and you basically get this pop-up and you can choose whatever features, and this runs a workflow. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up another feature so that besides these two, besides the add to Airtable, there should be another feature here, another option when I hit the command bar. And so I'm going to go into Ply, set up a new feature. I'm going to set up a tool, and we're going to say this is a command bar. Let's just give it an icon over here. I'll change the icon so you can change the icon. You can give it a name. So let's call it tracking. And we're going to go ahead and create. And this is kind of how you trigger the workflow. Again, like I said before, it's Command-Shift-J in my case, but you can set up like a custom key shortcut. Next, you want to go ahead and add the step. So the step is going to be, my first step is going to be in Airtable. I want to actually get the tables fields. So get a tables fields so that Ply has the structure of this, like all the fields, the structure of this table. So it knows like all the different fields and field types, and that this is a linked record and so forth. So that's crucial when you're setting up some sort of automation, so that basically you'll see based on the next step, Ply needs to understand the structure of my current Airtable. And so I'm going to go ahead, set up that get Airtable, choose device platform, choose the appropriate base, tracking base, which is again this, the table, this table. And we're going to test this step. Success. Amazing. Add new step. Now we have our next step. In this step, I'm going to set up an interface. So the interface allows me to input data. So in this interface, I'm going to set up a drop down, which I can call it source. I'm going to say this is required, and I'm going to go into table and get tables fields, and I'm going to find source as a field, and I'm going to put the name, and that shows me the source. So if I go back here, source, those are the options. And as I add new options in Airtable, those options get added over here because again, it's live pulling the Airtable fields. And so I'm actually going to make this unrequired because particularly in my workflow, not always do I need to use it. I am going to let the user add drop-down options, and I'm going to do autocomplete, and we're going to move on to our next one, and we're going to add another drop-down field. We're going to call this category. We're going to make this required, table data, get tables data, and we're going to get category. allow users to add more, and autocomplete. And we have this required. Next, we're going to move to, we're going to add another dropdown. We're going to make this required, and we're going to say, this one's going to be called owner. And owner, you'll see we have actually an interesting one. So again, I'm going to put owner name. I forgot to put. Okay, now we have name over here. So you have to make sure that's pulling the name. Name, let user add more options. In owner, I'm going to pre-select. Since I'm going to be the one filling out this feature always, I want it to pre-select to me so that I don't have to fill this out unless I'm specifically tracking an activity for someone else. So that's available. I'm now going to do the linked record. So I need to find the appropriate linked record. So I'm going to do a search field. We're going to search for a record. We're going to connect my Airtable. And we are going to select the base. So you have to tell it where to pull data from. We're going to map data when we get to this stage, and we are going to get in Airtable's fields. We're going to ask for, actually, first platform table ID. Base table. Oh, select from options, sorry. Because we're looking for, so since it's a linked record, so in tracking, I'm linking portfolio to link to the table of portfolio. And therefore, I'm going to set up that as a search field. And, I'm going to call this portfolio. And if you follow what I'm doing over here, at this point, we're just basically, we're getting the tables fields and we're inputting data. We're not yet populating a new Airtable record. That will come at a later stage. Let's just make sure, oh, I need a text box for details. So we're going to add text input, and we're going to allow it to be long text. And we're going to say, call this details. So I can eventually map this text field to details. So now I don't have to do name because name is being populated automatically via formula. Details I have a text box for. Owner I have a drop down for. Portfolio I have a search for. Category I have a drop down for. And source I have a drop down for. So now I basically set up in my Ply interface all the fields that I have in my Airtable table. Now is the final step of mapping. So we're going to go back here to the workflow part. Actually, we have to test it. So let's run to create sample data, source, LP, category. You see Avi's already pre-filled because I asked it to pre-fill the owner. Over here, when I search, it's going to find portfolio companies, and I'm going to add some text over here. And we are done. Now we are off to our final stage. Our final stage is adding a record in Airtable. So create a record in Airtable. We're going to choose the Airtable connection so that it has credentials. We're going to choose the first platform base, choose the tracking table, and now it's going to populate all the records that we see here. And we have to map data from the interface to creating the record. So in details, I'm going to go to details, owner, map data, interface, owner, portfolio, map data, interface, portfolio, category, map data, interface, category, map data, interface, source. We're going to test this step. And if we were successful, there we go. This record has been added. You can see the text over here. This record has been added to our Airtable. I'm going to delete it because this was a test and everything else is potentially live data. And for the, so technically I can literally publish at this stage and we're good. As the final step, I do want to add a interface to close off the feature so that I can open the feature live. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to, one second. Okay, so I'm gonna hit the end run, and on the end run, I get an option to do a ending interface. Ending interface, I'm gonna add a end run button, and I'm gonna turn off the label buttons label. I'm gonna say run again. So if I want to track like two activities, I can just track one after another. Run feature again is gonna be the option. Primary, actually, let's make it secondary. It's gonna look a little different. And I'm gonna add another button that's gonna say open record in new tab. And we're gonna open URL. I'm gonna click into one of the records, and I'm gonna grab the full Airtable URL besides the last string. And then I am going to paste the URL in here plus create record ID, open a new tab, primary, and look at that. We're gonna have to run to create sample data, and done. At this point, we're gonna publish, and we're gonna have a moment of truth if this actually works. So if this actually works, when I hit Command-Shift-J, I should be able to track activities across what I'm doing with portfolio companies and add new records to Airtable. So let's go ahead and try this. I'm gonna go ahead and hit Command-Shift-J once more. And as you can tell, voila, magic happened. Above add to Airtable feature, I now have a new feature called tracking. We're going to run this live, and you'll see down here it's running, the interface shows up, and I have the interface that I set up. And then again, this just runs on as a browser extension. So this can show up on top of every app. This can show up in your Gmail. It can show up anywhere. And I can start typing and finding potential companies. And let's say test 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna hit done. And as soon as it does, I get this ending pop-up, which again, I selected to have, otherwise it could have just gone away and moved on. I can either run it again, or I can open new record. So we're gonna click open new record. And you'll see literally this is test 1, 2, 3. This is the record I just created. So this came up, opened. I'm gonna delete this record, and we're gonna go back, and I'm gonna hit run again, and this button should work as well because the interface popped up again for me to track a new record. And so that is a simple way to track it. You can also, by the way, add these buttons to specific environments or apps that you might be working with. So not only can you trigger them as a Command-Shift-J, you can also, for example, add them as a button within your Gmail, and it can actually grab contextual data from the email that you're in, or from the email that you're sending, or from you can add the button to Airtable so that when you're within a record in Airtable, you can trigger that to send an email, for example, right? So you can do many different things. This is just a quick, simple example. Hopefully you're not too dizzy from me setting up this automation real quick. And hopefully this has been valuable. I'd love to hear from you what you're thinking about, what use cases you think this can be useful for. And if you drop a bunch of comments with use cases you're thinking about, I may choose one of them and do a follow-up video showing you how to set up that use case in Play.